way down.
Yeah.
Something similar to like a dominant dog collar, you're not doing like a yank or like a tug. You're literally just, you'd basically be just pulling straight up on his collar, and you'll find that like their head will come up and maybe even their front feet will be like softly touching the ground. You'll hold for like a 1, 2, 3 count and then you release it. And because, for lack of a better way of describing it, you're cutting off their ability to breathe effectively. They can't escalate. You know what I mean? So like when you're doing like the e-collar corrections, depending on the dog, sometimes when you e-collar correct them when they're in their reactivity, it can almost feel like it's like agitating and like fueling it a little bit. You know what I mean? So using something like that will de-escalate it because they have to. They have no other option. And a lot of times that type of correction can be more effective because they're like, well, do I want to bark at that other dog or do I want to breathe? And that's a very, big thing to put in perspective. Truthfully, that was really the only thing that was effective with Lumos when he had his big issues. Like he had 2 e-collars on, and he would,
I was like, what?
yeah, he just like blow straight through it, did not care at all. And so the only way I was able to really work through with him was with like a dominant dog collar and doing more of that type of correction. Because it was like once he hit the fight mode, he was like, any agitation is just going to fuel me. It's not going to get me to stop. So, well, I think this was the pitty that was yapping earlier. Oh, you're doing so good. I mean, as annoying as it is, I always tell people that it just proves that they can do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of figuring out the formula that produces this result each time. Which it could be as simple as like that one bigger correction I gave him just for breaking his walking position right at the beginning. You know what I mean? It could be something as simple as that where it's like, we'll go up this hill. You just set the tone right from the beginning.
So, but yeah, she's been listening real well. We're still working on doing training from when we're like leaving a room kind of standpoint. So we're still setting it up like.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
I think you just did like a video on it actually recently, like setting up for like.
Sorry,
I'm like completely watching.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But like I'll like just be in the other room paying attention to her, but we're thinking I'm not watching her. And,
cool. Have you caught her at all doing it in those situations? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So she's still right now about 15-20 minutes is about, if I'm not watching her, then how long she'll stay.
Oh, okay, I understand. Yeah. Good. That's pretty good though. 15-20 minutes. You're talking like on the bed?
Yeah.
Oh, while you're not there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good actually.
She's doing great.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. What would you say biggest issues you've seen have been, if any?
Still a car a little bit.
Car.
Yeah. But
okay.
That may have been because I didn't have the collar on me.
Sure.
Today, so car was still a little bit of an issue. Walks have been great. Honestly, it's it's all just been progressing,
Cool.
which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's good. We're moving in the right direction for sure. Have you been walking her in busier areas where you're seeing other dogs and stuff?
Surprisingly, no. Normally, our neighborhood's full of dogs.
And surprisingly, now you see none.
Now I see none when I want to.
Yeah.
We did run into 2 the past 2 nights.
Sure.
And she's done great with both. Like, I just took her off the side, got her down command, and she, you know, you can tell she tenses up a little bit, but she's not like, it's light and day in comparison to where it was. It's not a barking fit. It's more of just, hey, I see that. I'm a little bit stressed out.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, I mean, that obviously all sounds really good. So in a second here, I'm going to let a dog out. Only rule when I do that is just ignore the dogs, right? So anytime we are doing socialization, biggest thing is our role in that socialization is just lifeguard, right? Yeah. I'm here to supervise, make sure everybody's safe and happy, right? So I'll let them on out, kind of see what we get. Obviously, she's excited and stuff, but not doing anything bad, which is positive. You know, really what we would see with her, like when we first started doing a lot of socialization with her, is she just came in really hot, you know? And it wasn't a problem. Like I said, it's not like she was being aggressive or it was anything bad or anything like that.
Just under socialized.
She just came in so amped up, you know? And that was her biggest thing, is she just needed to learn by being around them more, you know, that didn't get her anything from the other dogs. Sometimes we look at this and we're like, oh my gosh, she's being aggressive. She's not. She's just being loud. That's it. You know? And you know, it's one of those things where if it were to persist just because it's annoying, yes, you could correct for it and it's not wrong. But a lot of times we'll look at something like that and we'll be like, oh my gosh, like she wants to like go after that dog or this or that, which is just not the case. Good.
She's almost been like still really tentative to do anything.
Sure.
It's a transition process.
Could be. You may just be seeing though, I mean, it may be tired, right? But it also just maybe she's just calming down because she's getting a lot more mental stimulation, which is tired. I mean, you know, like you're wearing her out more throughout the day because it sounds like you're being very active with her and doing a lot of things. And you're just seeing how much more efficient it is at wearing her out, you know?
That's true.
Yeah. Right? She's not just a dog you're going to throw in with any group and it's just going to be okay all the time.
Right.
My number one rule with that is I try to avoid socializing my dog with any other supervised social dogs, right? So I would only put my supervised dog with another dog I would determine to be like social, right? Social meaning that like under 99% of circumstances, there's not going to be an issue, you know? Like all these guys we have out right now, these guys we vetted pretty thoroughly to be like, under pretty much any circumstance, fine, you know?
The good dogs with temperament.
Yeah,
laid back attitude.
Yep. It's not even like good dog, bad dog, you know? It's just simply like much more tolerant temperament versus a little bit more kind of hyperactive temperament.
That's you.
Yeah. You know, and I used to say like, you know, my dogs myself, right? So like I would consider 2 of them to be social dogs, right? The other 2 are supervised dogs as well, you know? My Malinois especially, you know, like he could be a little finicky with other dogs sometimes, but he's like under normal circumstances, he's fine. But you know, the right recipe of things happening. Yes, exactly. pretty good. She looks great. She's doing well. I feel like she looks puny next to this dude.
Boy.
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude. So, okay, let me put him away real quick, then we'll kind of start to wrap this up. Come. That was pretty good, dude. Not too shabby. All right, so nails look good, so I'm gonna have you get into the brushing then. So again, just kind of push it a little bit. You know, some of the spots, you know, he typically doesn't care for that much. We'll see if we can work him through that first.
Okay, so if I'm at home and doing this, he's likely going to react more than he does.
Sure.
And he goes to snap at me. Like, what do I do with the leash?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's say you turned and you went, right, and like kind of snapped at your hand or something. The reason why we use, you're good, you can get her. Is she right here? Oh yeah. Let's move off to the side a little bit. Yeah, let's say he turns, he goes, right, like snaps at you, right? The reason why we use the muzzle is to be able to work through those things without actually reinforcing the behavior. Because in most cases what happens when he does that is we stop, right? You know, we say, oh, okay, cool, you don't like this, you're telling us you don't like this, so we're gonna stop, which actually makes the behavior stronger and makes him more likely to do that again next time. So our first step is just showing him it doesn't work, right? He might snap, right? But if he snaps, guess what I'm gonna do? Keep brushing.
See, like, I know my first reaction is going to be like, and I'm going to jump.
Which is okay. And if you startle for a second and stop for a second, as long as you start back doing it again, that's fine. But keep in mind, again, he's got the muzzle on, right? Nothing's gonna happen.
So I think that maybe will make me feel better.
For sure. We're not telling him he can't express himself. You know what I mean? We can't tell, or we're not telling him that when he's stressed out, he's not allowed to rehearse these different behaviors. What we're telling him is simply that you could tell us that, but we know nothing scary is happening right now, and we're gonna teach you to tolerate it by not letting it work.
Does it make it worse though when they're like frustrated with it on, or?
It can, if it's like really bad, but you messing with them while they're frustrated usually makes it even worse then.
Yeah.
So, just depends on the dog. And like I said, he's never needed it here when we socialize him, but since he's got it on, you know, and especially since you get really nervous doing this kind of stuff, I would recommend that whenever you go to do this on your own the first time or two, you just use the muzzle for it. Make you feel a little bit more calm, you know? That way you can put him in, have him hang out, give him whatever, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that, and just end on a super positive note, you know? Do that a couple times, then it's like, oh, okay, cool, he's not doing anything, we can take it off, you know? Now as I start seeing this kind of stuff, like, you know, if he continues to push and annoy him and doesn't respond to those cues, you know, we would step in, obviously, and intervene, but right now I don't see anything wrong.
Because that's how I feel like he always would get. Is very like possessive and annoying.
Sure.
Like he doesn't know when to stop.
Yep.
And then when I would try and take him away, it's like when he would snap at me or something.
Yeah.
It's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, physically taking them away, it's never typically the move. Usually what I'll do is sometimes in situations like this, I'll practice disengaging the dog. So in a minute here, what we'll do is maybe we'll give either a come command or a bed command or something like that. And see if we can get him to focus in quickly on us. But a lot of times those things, if you just let it play out, they kind of figure it out, you know?
So like this is good dog play.
Yeah, I mean, they're figuring each other out, you know? Play in general, if you look at it, all it is competition, you know? And they get satisfaction out of that competition, obviously. So, you know, Oscar's pushing Wally's buttons a little bit here, trying to get a rise out of him. Wally's kind of pushing back a little bit, you know? They're just kind of figuring out, you know, where they stand with each other.
I guess one time I had him over at that park area when we were playing with the ball.
Sure.
And there's this dog that he just does not like. He's never liked. And like his first immediate response was to like go after the dog, and he's never done that before. And this was a while back. This was before we started training.
Yep.
So I haven't taken him over there again. But like, why does he want to seem to do that with certain dogs and not like right now?
You said there was a ball involved at that?
Yeah.
toys change everything, right? When you add in outside reinforcers, right, or outside resources, so food, toys, affection, it immediately shifts everything going on in their mind from we're competing with each other and playing this game to we're competing for a resource, you know? So it immediately changes their whole state of mind. And that's why, again, toys, games, things like that are things you typically just want to stay away from when you're socializing your dog.
Because he was always very good as a puppy and like share toys. He would never like resource our toys.
It always is when they, you know, as they start maturing and stuff, it starts becoming more of a problem.
Yeah, definitely when I saw it change.
Yeah. So we'll give him a minute here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to do the bed command again.
So if he's getting into, like I take the muzzle off, and do you ever find like after you take the muzzle off that they even like start those aggressive like snapping behaviors, or they kind of build their relationship?
The idea is you use that muzzle long enough where you've checked the box that they've pushed each other's buttons enough without an issue that when you go to take it off, your chances of something happening are much lower, you know? And then again, keep in mind, just like with the handling stuff, let's say hypothetically he was playing with him and kind of how he kind of snapped at him because he was pushing him too much, vice versa, right? He snapped at him a little bit for pushing too much. It's not a problem. The only thing I would really step in for and correct is if he just like full on started going after the other dog, which that's not, I haven't seen anything telling me that this dog is that dog, you know? Come on, buddy. It's like, no thank you. Oh, thank you. Hello, Wally. Hi, Wally.
So now when he's like in this state of mind, like wants to be right next to me, that's when I like worry that he's like, okay, if this dog came up, like he's gonna get nasty.
Yeah, the difference though is why is the dog being so glued up next to you? In the case of in the past what you've seen, he's glued up next to you because he's just seeing you as a resource and he sees you as like the soft one and this and that. Right there he was glued up next to you because he's like, mom's in charge right now, right? So it's just it's a different state of mind, right? So again, much less likely to exhibit that behavior in that state of mind. Still possible, but you know, less concerning.
Bed.
There you go, much better that time.
Okay.
Nice.
So if you want two dogs to coexist next to you, like you're done, you're like, okay, I'm done, everyone playing, like everyone needs to lay down and relax.
Sure.
So if, let's say we have a dog over, we're at a friend's house and they don't use the same commands or the same like training. So how do I like...
Sure.
You
So,
know what I mean?
yeah, so you can only be in charge of your dog.
Yeah.
Right? So you know you have the ability to get him to chill out if you need to. We've just shown that.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's up to the other person, whoever owns that other dog, to get their dog to chill out.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's,
He would like stay, I would
Yep.
keep enforcing. If he got off the bed before I said okay.
You would correct him, take him back.
Okay. So what happens if that dog like constantly keeps pestering him at the bed?
Yeah, I wouldn't allow that to happen.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to force my dog to, you know, stay in a stationary spot like that if the other dog is going to keep bugging them the whole time. You know, at that point, if it is time where it's like we're just going to give the dogs a little break here, either put him in a bed stay, have the other owner get their dog to chill out. If they can't get their dog to chill out, put him on a leash. If they don't want to put him on a leash or can't put him on a leash, put him in separate rooms.
Okay.
You know, however you need to force that break.
Okay. What's like so when I see videos of him playing, it's like up to 5 dogs. Usually, which is like terrifying.
Sure.
And even the 2, because like that was what we're having so many issues with. But now when I look back, like, was it more about the toys? Because there was toys involved, and then he'd be obsessive about the dog that was playing with him. And if other dogs would try and play with that dog, he'd be like, no, you're not going to play with that dog, I am. So, yeah.
It's all about state of mind. You know what I mean? Like we talked about, the difference between him just being next to you versus you making him be next to you, right? The difference between him coexisting in the house and maybe not rehearsing any behavioral issues versus him coexisting in the house, not rehearsing any behavioral issues because we've set boundaries for those things, you know? Everything is different once we start establishing leadership with our dog and getting them to look at us differently, right? And then us understanding how to set up the environment properly for them to be successful, right? That's the key with all of this kind of stuff is we could proactively avoid all of these problems by just understanding what situations to keep our dogs out of, you know? Understanding if we're gonna socialize him, these are the best practices for socializing him where there's not gonna be any major issues, things like that, you know?
So what about like socializing him in a yard that's another dog's yard? Like
Sure.
I bring him into our brother-in-law's dog's yard.
Yep.
They've never had a problem.
Yep.
But like what if it's somebody new in Chicago and I take him into somebody else's house?
Yep.
Like, that's what I'm so nervous about.
You just gotta be aware of, again, that the only thing that changes in those types of situations is two things. One, if you're going to somebody else's house, that dog may be a little bit more territorial over their house, but there's nothing you can do about that. You know what I mean? That's where you get into when we're socializing our dogs with other dogs, like friends' dogs, families' dogs, things like that. We're always, it's only gonna be so successful as the other owner has control over their dog, or as social as the other dog is. You know what I mean? So that's where I always get into first step of having good socialization is knowing and trusting the dogs you're socializing your dog with. You know, you need to know that going to that other dog's house, that dog is not going to be ridiculously territorial in that environment, and you can only trust the owner as far as what they say, as far as that's concerned, you know? If you're doing it indoors somewhere, you obviously have to be aware of, obviously, there's more tight corners and stuff they can get themselves trapped in, right? Which isn't inherently a huge problem, but it's something to be aware of, right? If he glues himself up in the corner by that bathroom over there and there's constantly a dog coming up and pestering him, if he gets stressed out, he can't get away as easily. So I need to be more, it's exactly like the elevator situation. We have to be really aware of that scenario to make sure there's no major issues that come from it, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can go ahead and release him.
Okay.
Very good.
So the way like he greeted those dogs and like we were playing, like do you feel like he's so like I did some part right in socialization?
Yeah, maybe, or he just isn't really that bad of a dog, you know? That's a lot of it too, is just, you know, you start realizing when you mix some of the improper socialization, you start realizing it's not that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be because you socialized him well when he was a puppy, right? Or he could just have a good temperament or whatever, you know? But we've said this 9,000 times over the last 10 weeks, right? He is nowhere near as bad as you have in your head that he is.
Oskar, come. That was a strut.